My husband planned our dream anniversary vacation for months. When I arrived at the airport, I saw him boarding with my sister instead. I stood frozen in the terminal, my carry-on luggage handle cutting into my palm as I gripped it tighter. 5 years of marriage, and this was how it ended, with me watching Ryan guide Olivia through priority boarding for our flight to Bali, his hand resting on the small of her back, exactly how it used to rest on mine. They didn't see me. I made sure of that. I stepped behind a pillar, my heart hammering so loudly I was certain other passengers could hear it. A notification pinged on my phone. I sagged Instagram post with trembling fingers. I opened it to see my sister's perfectly filtered cell with my husband, champagne glasses clinking in business class. Sometimes life gives you unexpected adventures. Blessed number surprises trip, ma'am? Are you boarding flight 847? The gate agent's voice barely registered through the ringing in my ears. I shook my head, backing away. No, I whispered. Here has been a mistake. Within minutes, my phone exploded with messages from mutual friends who had seen Olivia's post. Senti, Emma, isn't that your anniversary trip? Did something happen? Asterisk, Cam, are you okay? Cal me? Asterisk, send, did Ryan and Olivia? Asterisk, I responded to none of them. Instead, I wheeled my suitcase out of the terminal with mechanical precision, ordered a rideshare, and returned to our empty suburban home. By evening, Ryan had called twice. I let both go to voicemail. The second message was brief, his voice unnaturally casual. Hey babe, something urgent came up with Olivia and she really needed to get away. I knew you'd understand since you always do. We can reschedule our trip. Love you, love. The word hung in the air like smoke from a fire that had already consumed everything. I walked through our home, the one we'd bought together after the wedding, and noticed for the first time how many photographs featured Olivia, her at our wedding, at Christmas dinners, at Ryan's birthday. My sister had always been there, hovering at the edges of our marriage, and I had never questioned it. That night I slept on the couch, unable to face our bed. I didn't cry, not yet. All I felt was a strange floating sensation, as if I was watching someone else's life fall apart. The worst betrayals, I realized, don't come as surprises. They come as confirmations of what you suspected all along, but were too afraid to acknowledge. In the morning I brewed myself a cup of coffee and settled at the kitchen island. Then, with steady hands, I pulled up the photographs from our engagement party 3 years ago. There it was, the look I dismissed as nothing, Ryan gazing at Olivia while I thanked our guests, oblivious. The same look I'd seen yesterday as they boarded my flight, took my seat, and flew to my destination. My phone buzzed again, another post from Olivia. A sunrise over Bali beaches with two silhouettes walking hand in hand. This time I didn't look away. I studied it carefully, memorizing every pixel, letting reality sink in. Then I did the one thing neither of them expected. I liked the photo and commented, "Beautiful view, hope you both enjoy my anniversary present." Then I blocked them both, poured the rest of my coffee down the drain, and started making lists. I had planning to do the house creaked and settled around me that first night, suddenly too large and too empty. I wandered from room to room, seeing a relationship with new clarity, how Ryan had always kept one foot out the door, how I'd been so desperate to make it work that I'd overlooked the obvious. I remembered our first meeting 5 years ago at my cousin's wedding. Ryan had approached me with that crooked smile, asking me to dance. "You look like someone who could use a little fun," he'd said. I'd been charmed by his confidence, his attention back. Then Olivia had been studying abroad. She wasn't there to see our beginning when she returned and met Ryan at our family dinner 3 months later. I noticed something flicker across his face, surprise, then recognition. "Have we met before?" he'd asked her. She'd shaken her head, but their eyes had held for a beat too long. I dismissed it as nothing. The sound of tires on gravel jolted me back to the present. Headlights swept across the living room wall. Ryan was home. I didn't run, didn't hide. I sat in the armchair facing the door, hands folded in my lap. He entered with the casual confidence of a man who expected forgiveness. "Emma," he said, dropping his keys on the entry table. "You are still up. You took my sister to Bali." My voice was steady, detached. "To the overwater bungalow I researched for 6 months." Ryan's shoulders slumped slightly. He ran a hand through his hair, his tailwind lying. "It's not what you think. Olivia was going through something serious. She needed to get away. So serious she couldn't call me. So urgent you couldn't text before boarding and tried to reach you before the flight. Don't. I checked our phone records. You called me after takeoff." His expression shifted, annoyance, replacing the faux concern. It was a look I'd seen before, usually when I questioned his late nights or weekend emergencies with Olivia. "She's your sister, Emma. She was in crisis." "What kind of crisis requires my anniversary trip?" He paced the room, avoiding my eyes. "Her boyfriend broke up with her. She was devastated. I couldn't help it." I laughed. The sound surprised us both. "That's what you were going with. That's the emergency. You wouldn't understand. Olivia and I have always been close." I finished for him. "Strangely close. Tell me, Ryan, was I ever first for you? Even once?" Something hardened in his expression. "That's not fair. I married you, but you've always belonged to her." He sat down heavily on the couch. "You are overreacting. It was just a trip. It was our trip, our anniversary, and you chose her again." I stood up, suddenly calm. "This isn't the first time, is it?" His silence confirmed everything. I walked to our bedroom and returned with a small stack of papers. "Last year's Christmas, when you left the family dinner to help Olivia with car trouble. You were gone 3 hours. I placed one paper on the coffee table, 4th of July, when you missed the fireworks, because Olivia needed help moving furniture. My birthday dinner, which you were 2 hours late to because Olivia called," he finished quietly. "She's always been your priority. I just never wanted to see it." Ryan leaned forward, suddenly earnest. "Emma, I love you, Olivia, and I just have a connection. That's more important than your marriage," I finished. The words hung between us, undeniable. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. "I think you should stay somewhere else tonight," I said. "This is my house too, and that's my sister in your Bali bungalow." He left an hour later with a duffel bag, promising to call tomorrow when I was thinking more clearly. I locked the door behind him, then methodically went through the house, gathering every photograph of Olivia, every gift she'd given us, every trace of her. I put it all in a box and placed it by the front door. For the first time since the airport, I allowed myself to cry, not for what I'd lost, but for what I'd never really had. "He actually took your sister on your anniversary trip." Megan's voice carried through the cuspany, causing several heads to turn. My oldest friend had never been one for discretion. I stirred my Letty, embarrassed by the attention, keeping keep it down, would you? Sorry, she whispered, leaning closer. But Emma, that's beyond messed up. It had been 2 weeks since the airport. 2 weeks of Ryan's constant texts, his elaborate flower deliveries, his promises to explain everything. 2 weeks of friends choosing sides of family members urging reconciliation without understanding what they were asking. Has Olivia tried to contact you? Megan asked. Just once. I pulled out my phone and showed her the message. Then we need to talk. Here is more to this than you know. Please don't throw away your marriage over a misunderstanding. Asterisk, Megan snorted. A misunderstanding? Like she accidentally packed her bags, went to the airport, and happened to board your anniversary flight? I laughed despite myself. It felt good to have someone firmly in my corner. The thing is, I said, picking at my muffin, this isn't new. Looking back, I can see the pattern. Ryan has always dropped everything for Olivia. I just made excuses for it. Like what? Like the time he left my grad school graduation party early because she called saying she felt unsafe in her apartment, or when he missed our first Valentine's Day dinner reservation because she had food poisoning. Tears, dozens of examples. Megan was quiet for a moment. And all your friends knew this was happening. The question stung because I already knew the answer. Most of them, I think. At Mark and Bull's dinner party last year, I overheard someone refer to Ryan and Olivia as the real couple. When I walked up, everyone got quiet. God, Emma. I shrugged, feigning a nonchalance I didn't feel. I am done being the fool in this story. My phone buzzed with a notification. Another delivery had arrived at the house. When I got home, a large package sat on the porch, an expensive telescope I'd once mentioned wanting. The card read, I miss you, Ram. I left it on the porch the next day. It was gone. I wondered if he'd taken it to Olivia that weekend. I met my college roommate for drinks. Then I reconnected with colleagues I'd lost touch with after marriage. I signed up for a photography class I'd always wanted to take. Each small step felt like reclaiming pieces of myself. Ryan's attempts at reconciliation escalated. He sent daily emails detailing our happy memories. He had his mother call me to plead his case. When those failed, he showed up at my workplace with concert tickets to my favorite band. Just hear me out, he begged in the parking lot, looking genuinely distressed for the first time. What Olivia and I have, it's complicated. But it doesn't change how I feel about you. That's the problem, I replied, walking past him to my car. It never changed how you felt about her either. Later that week, our mutual friend Taylor invited me to dinner. I should have known it was a setup when I arrived to find Ryan already seated at the table. I thought you both needed neutral ground, Taylor explained awkwardly. The dinner was excruciating. Our friends tried to maintain conversation while Ryan stared at me with wounded eyes. When dessert arrived, he reached for my hand across the table. Emma, please, Azameshan, here knows we belong together. I pulled my hand away. Actually, everyone here watched you choose my sister over me for years and said nothing. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. That's not fair, Lisa, Ryan's college friend finally said. Olivia has always needed more support. She's more fragile than you, and that's my fault. No one's saying that, Ryan interjected. But you've always been the strong one, the independent one. Olivia needs me in a way you don't. Something clicked into place. So I am being punished for not being needy enough, for not manipulating you with crises. It's not manipulation, Ryan insisted, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked around the table at our so-called friends, seeing clearly now how they'd enabled this dynamic. I placed my napkin beside my untouched cake, stood up, and addressed the table. I may not need Ryan the way Olivia does, but I deserved better than being someone's backup plan for 5 years. As I walked out, Taylor followed me. Emma, wait. Here's something you don't know about Ryan and Olivia's history. I paused at the door. Is they're secretly long-lost siblings or hiding a child together? I don't care. Her expression told me I wasn't far off. Ask him about the summer before college, she said quietly, before he met you. I left without responding, but her words echoed in my mind all the way home. You've completely transformed the Henderson proposal, James said, leaning against my office doorway. The client actually smiled during the presentation. I didn't know old Henderson's face could do that. I laughed, feeling a genuine lightness I hadn't experienced in months. Flooring myself into work had become my salvation, the one area of life where everything made sense, where effort yielded results, where my value was clear and measurable. Just doing my job, I replied, shutting down my computer. It was past 7 and the office had emptied hours ago. Your job doesn't include working until dawn, James pointed out. Some of us are grabbing dinner at that new place on 4th. You should join. 6 months ago, I would have declined, citing Ryan's preference for dining at home. Now I found myself nodding. Give me 5 minutes to finish up here. Dinner with colleagues turned into a weekly tradition. I rediscovered parts of myself that had faded during my marriage, my love of debate, my dry humor, my willingness to try new things. James often joined us, and I appreciated his easy friendship, his respect for my boundaries, his lack of curiosity about my personal life. At home, I began packing Ryan's remaining belongings into boxes. We'd spoken only through lawyers since the dinner disaster 3 weeks ago. The separation agreement was nearly finalized. My phone rang as I sealed another box. Unknown number. Emma, it's me, Olivia's voice. I nearly hung up. Please don't hang up, she rushed on as if reading my mind. I know I am the last person you want to talk to. What do you want? My voice was cold, unrecognizable even to myself. I am back in town. I think we should talk in person. I have nothing to say to you, but I have things to say to you. Fond about things. She paused. About the past, about why Ryan and I save it for someone who cares. He misses you. Her voice softened. He's a mess without you. He should have thought of that before boarding that plane. It was my fault, she insisted. I manipulated him. I always have the admission surprised me, but it changed nothing. And he always let you after hanging up. I finished packing the boxes with renewed purpose. That weekend, I attended a real estate seminar on a whim and found myself captivated by the possibilities. When the speaker mentioned their expanding West Coast office, something clicked. We're looking for someone to head up our Seattle marketing team, the director told me after I approached her, Shebin with fresh ideas, who isn't afraid of change. I took her card. I might know someone. That night, I researched Seattle, its neighborhood, job market, culture. For the first time since the airport, I felt excited about the future. I started the application process the next morning. 3 days later, Ryan appeared on my doorstep unannounced. You are selling the house? He demanded, waving a notification from our real estate attorney. I stepped back, allowing him into the foyer, but no further. I am exercising my buyout option from the separation agreement. Your lawyer has the details. I don't want to buy out. I want us to work this out. He looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing a wrinkled shirt I didn't recognize. Here is nothing to work out. I ended things with Olivia Binchils. She understands now, I laughed. Until her next crisis, her next heartbreak, her next manipulative power play. It won't happen again, he insisted. I've learned my lesson, so have I. His eyes narrowed. Is there someone else? That guy from your office, James? Nobody here is just me, finally putting myself first. Ryan ran a hand through his hair in frustration. You can't just throw away 5 years of marriage without trying. I tried for 5 years. yours. You were just too busy with Olivia to notice the mention of her name triggered something. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Here's something you don't know about Olivia and me, something that explains everything. Taylor mentioned that, I replied calmly. Something about the summer before college. He looked shocked. She had no right to save your secrets. I'm not interested in your justifications. It's not a justification. It's goodbye, Ryan. I opened the front door. The movers are coming for your boxes on Thursday after you left. I returned to my laptop and finalized my application for the Seattle position. Then I booked a flight to visit the city the following week. That night, at a company event, James noticed my unusually good mood. You seem different tonight, he observed as we waited for our colleagues by the bar. I am considering a big change, I admitted. Something I should have done a long time ago. The Seattle position, he guessed, surprising me. The director mentioned you applied? I nodded. I need a fresh start. We'd miss you here, he said simply. Then, after a pause, I'd miss you. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of something beyond my pain possibility. I haven't gotten the job yet, I reminded him. But you will, he said with complete confidence. You are the most capable person I know. As our colleagues arrived, I caught James watching me with newfound understanding. Not pity, not desire, just recognition of who I was becoming. Later that night, I received a text from an unknown number. And I know about Chicago. I know me tomorrow, or Ryan finds out too. Asterisk, I stared at the message, ice forming in my veins. Only Olivia knew what had happened in Chicago 3 years ago. The one secret I kept from everyone, including Ryan. The awakening I'd felt shattered into uncertainty as old fears rushed back. I chose a public testimony for the meeting, arriving early to secure a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. My hands trembled slightly as I waited, the text message still burning in my mind. Chicago, the weekend I told Ryan I was at a marketing conference. The weekend I'd actually spent in hospital with Olivia after she called me in hysterics. The weekend I'd helped her through the aftermath of a miscarriage she hadn't told anyone about, least of all Ryan. Olivia arrived 10 minutes late, her characteristic dramatic entrance, drawing eyes as she navigated through the tables. She looked thinner, her usual polished appearance slightly frayed at the edges. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sliding into the chair opposite mine. You didn't leave me much choice. I kept my voice level. Blackmail isn't a great way to start a conversation. She had the decency to look embarrassed. I'm sorry about the text. I just needed to make sure you'd come. What do you want, Olivia? She took a deep breath. I need to tell you something about Ryan and me, about why things are the way they are. I am not interested in we were together before he met you. The words hung in the air between us. I blinked, processing. What do you mean together? The summer before college, we met at a music festival in Austin. We spent 3 weeks together before I left for my study abroad program. She looked down at her untouched coffee. It was intense, but we agreed to end it when I left. I felt strangely calm. And you never thought to mention this when I introduced him as my boyfriend 3 years later? I was in shock when you brought him home. He didn't recognize me at first. I'd changed my hair, lost weight. By the time he realized who I was, you were already serious who I was. You were already serious. We thought it would just complicate things. You mean you thought I'd break up with him? Maybe at first, she admitted, but then you got engaged and it seemed too late. And Ryan truly loved you, Emma. He chose you. I laughed bitterly, while keeping you as his backup plan. It wasn't like that. Then what about Chicago? I asked, watching her face carefully. Was that Ryan's baby? Her eyes widened. How? Did you process of elimination? You were between boyfriends. You called me instead of mom or your friends. And after that weekend, you started finding reasons to need Ryan's attention again? She looked away, confirmation enough. Did he know? I asked, already suspecting the answer. Not then, she whispered. I told him last year, when Ryan had become even more attentive to Olivia's needs, when our marriage had begun its subtle unraveling. So the Bali trip was his idea of making it up to me. She met my eyes finally. He felt guilty for not being there in Chicago, for choosing you over me all those years ago. The revelation shouldn't have hurt after everything else, but it did, a fresh wound atop barely healed scars. Why are you telling me this now? Because I am moving to London for work. She reached for my hand. I pulled away, and because Ryan truly loves you. What we had was just history and guilt and unfinished business, and a child you lost. Her eyes filled with tears. Yes, I stood up suddenly, needing airspace distance from this tangled web of secrets. Emma, please, Ryan wants to make things work. He ended things with me for good when we got back from Bali. He realized he couldn't keep living in the past. That's his choice, I said coldly. Just like Seattle is mine. Her head snapped up. Seattle. I've been offered a position there. I start next month. Does Ryan know number? And you won't tell him? She looked like she might argue, then nodded slowly. I owe you that much. As I turned to leave, she called after me. He really does love you, Emma. More than he ever loved me. I paused without turning back. The problem is, Olivia, he never loved either of us enough. That night, I sat on my back porch watching stars appear in the darkening sky. The revelation explained so much: Ryan's divided loyalty, the unspoken tension at family gatherings, the way he'd always treated Olivia with a mixture of guilt and tenderness. My phone buzzed with a text from James. Shin got the Seattle contract today. Kate, they'd be crazy not to hire you. Asterisk, I smiled, feeling a weight lift. The past didn't have to define my future. Chicago, Olivia, Ryan. They were chapters ending, not the whole story. As if summoned by my thoughts, Ryan's car pulled into the driveway. He approached tentatively, stopping at the porch steps. Olivia told me you met, he said quietly. That she told you everything? I nodded, neither inviting him to stay nor asking him to leave. I should have told you years ago. He sat on the bottom step, keeping his distance. I just didn't know how. You didn't trust me. I didn't trust myself, he corrected. I was afraid of losing you. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. When did you find out about Chicago? I asked, the question that had been nagging at me last Thanksgiving. Olivia got drunk and confessed everything. He looked up at me. Why didn't you tell me? It wasn't my secret to tell. We sat in silence, the years of half-truths and omissions between us like a physical presence. I got a job offer in Seattle, I finally said. I am taking it. Instead of the protest I expected, he simply nodded. When do you leave? 3 weeks. Is there anything I can say to change your mind? About us? I considered the question, searching my heart for any remaining attachment strong enough to overcome the past. No, I said finally. There isn't. He stood up, acceptance in his posture. I'll always regret not being honest with you from the beginning. We might have had a chance then. As he walked back to his car, I realized I felt no triumph, no vindication, only a quiet certainty that I was finally choosing myself. The Seattle apartment looked nothing like our suburban home. Floor-to-ceiling windows faced the waterfront, filling the space with shifting patterns of light. Minimalist furniture, most of it new, awaited arrangement. No photographs yet, no history on display. This view almost makes up for the rain, my mother remarked, helping me unpack kitchen boxes. She'd flown in to help with the move, a buffer against the emotions of leaving everything familiar behind. I like the rain, I said, finding spots for glasses and plates. It's cleansing. She paused, studying me with the particular attention mothers reserve for children in transition. You seem lighter here, more like yourself. I feel more like myself. We worked in comfortable silence until she broached the topic I'd been expecting. Your father spoke with Ryan last week. I continued unpacking, refusing to show how this affected me. Oh, he's selling the house, moving to Chicago. Chicago, of all places, apparently tier is a position in his company's office there. I nodded, unsurprised. Chicago represented unfinished business for Ryan, a chance to rewrite a chapter he'd missed. Have you spoken to Olivia? Mom asked carefully. Number. I placed a mug on the shelf with deliberate precision. And I don't plan to. She's still your sister. Biology doesn't obligate forgiveness. Mom sighed but didn't push. She'd been surprisingly supportive throughout the separation, never pressuring me toward reconciliation. Well, she called me yesterday. She's postponed London. This did surprise me. Why, she didn't say, but she sounded different. More grounded. Maybe I changed the subject, unwilling to let Olivia occupy any more space in my new beginning. That evening after Mom returned to her hotel, I stood on my balcony watching ferries cross the Sound. My phone buzzed with a text from James, but landed safely. Hotel is decent. Dinner tomorrow to discuss the Henderson transition. Asterisk, I smiled, typing back. Asterisk 7 p.m. I know a place. Asterisk, the Seattle job had come with an unexpected bonus. James had been assigned as the liaison between offices for the first month, helping smooth my transition. His friendship had been one of the few bright spots in recent months. The doorbell rang, startling me. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw Ryan. For a moment, I considered pretending I wasn't home. Then, sighing, I opened the door. What are you doing here? He looked as surprised to see me as I was to see him. Your mother said you'd be out with friends tonight. Of course she had. That doesn't answer my question. I wanted to see your new place. Make sure you were settled. He held up a small package, and to give you this, I took it reluctantly. Inside was a key, old brass, unfamiliar. It's to my grandmother's lake house in Vermont, he explained. I transferred ownership to you. The papers are being sent to your lawyer. I stared at the key in confusion. Why would you do that? Because you loved it there? Because I took so much from you. I wanted to give something back. The lake house had been my favorite retreat, a place where we'd been happy in the early years of our marriage. Before Olivia, before everything, I can't accept this. You can, I want you to. He didn't try to enter, maintaining a respectful distance. It's not a manipulation, Emma. It's atonement, I guess. I searched his face for hidden motives, but found only sincerity. Thank you, I said finally, pocketing the key. But you didn't need to come all this way to deliver it. I needed to see you, to make sure this move is really what you want. It is. He nodded, accepting this. I am moving to Chicago next month. Mom mentioned that an awkward silence fell between us, too many unspoken words crowding the doorway. Olivia's not coming with me, he added. Just so you know. I raised an eyebrow. I didn't ask. I know, but I wanted to be clear. What happened between us, it's over, has been since Bali. Ryan, whatever you do with your life now, it's not my concern. He looked like he wanted to say more, but thought better of it. You look good, Emma. Happy I am. As he turned to leave, he paused. For what it's worth, I did love you, not the way you deserved maybe, but the best way I knew how. After he left, I returned to the balcony, turning the key over in my fingers. The lake house had been the setting for some of our happiest moments, lazy summer afternoons, winter evenings by the fire. But those memories now seemed to belong to different people. My phone rang. Olivia. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was brief. I'm not going to London. I am moving to Chicago instead. Not for Ryan, that's truly over. But here is a research position at Northwestern I've accepted. I thought you should hear it from me. Chicago again, drawing them both back like a magnet. I deleted the message, refusing to be pulled into their orbit again. The next evening, James and I sat at a waterfront restaurant discussing the Henderson account handover. As work talk concluded, he studied me over his wine glass. You seem settled here already, he observed. Like you belong, it feels right, I admitted. Like I can breathe again. Your ex-husband was at the office yesterday, he mentioned casually. Signing some paperwork for the house sale, I tensed. Did he ask about me? He did. I told him you were thriving. Thank you. James hesitated, then added, he seemed genuinely happy to hear it. I nodded, surprised to find this mattered to me not because I wanted Ryan back, but because it suggested he'd grown enough to want my happiness even if it didn't include him. Can I ask you something personal, James? Said depends on the question. Do you regret it? Your marriage? I considered this carefully. Number, I regret not seeing the truth sooner, but the experience shaped me. I wouldn't be who I am now without it. He smiled, a warm, genuine smile that reached his eyes. I like who you are now. For the first time in over a year, I felt that flutter of possibility again. Not a replacement for what I'd lost, but something new, built on stronger foundations. One day at a time, I said, raising my glass in a small toast. One day at a time, he agreed, clinking his glass against mine. As we walked back along the waterfront, I realized I no longer felt like someone's second choice. In Seattle, in this new life, I was finally unquestionably my own first priority. 6 months passed in Seattle like a cleansing rain, washing away old patterns and nurturing new growth. My apartment no longer felt temporary. I'd added personal touches, hosted dinner parties, created rituals that were mine alone. The job challenged me in ways my previous position never had, pushing me to expand my skills and confidence. James had returned to the main office after the first month, but we'd maintained contact professional at first, then evolving into something more personal. Weekend video calls, late-night texts about books we'd both read, occasional visits when business brought either of us to the other city. Nothing defined, nothing rushed, just possibility unfolding at its own pace. The lake house key remained in my jewelry box, unused but not forgotten. I'd considered selling the property but found myself reluctant to sever that final connection to my past. My phone rang as I was preparing for a presentation. Ryan's number, the first contact in months. Emma, is this a bad time? I am heading into a meeting, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Everything okay? Yes, fine. He paused. I am in Seattle for a conference. I wondered if we might have coffee. My immediate instinct was to refuse to protect my new peace, but curiosity won out when tomorrow afternoon, that Castine near the art museum, 3 o'clock, I agreed. I can spare half an hour. The Clasfe was busy when I arrived, filled with the afternoon crowd of tourists and museum goers. Ryan sat at a corner table, 2 cups already waiting. He looked different, more settled in himself, less like someone performing a role. I got you a Lodi, he said as I sat down. Still your preference? I nodded, surprised. He remembered Pike's, and awkward silence fell as we assessed each other across the table, searching for traces of the people we once were to each other. You look well, he said finally.